Well, we're in Kentucky, the first morning hunt. Getting here after daylight. I'm gonna have to really just scout my way in. Found some pretty good sign yesterday. Getting pretty close to the bean field. I didn't want to get this close to the bean field to park, but we're here, so I'm gonna wing it this morning, guys. Wish me luck. This is my first hunt in Kentucky. I got here yesterday and was able to scout for maybe a couple of hours before dark, and was looking for acorns and couldn't really find a whole lot of acorns. And this one ginormous tree is dropping acorns, and there's a white oak right next to it that's dropping a few acorns. But these red oaks in here around this big red oak is dropping acorns, and there's deer activity around it, and there's some really big rubs that are fresh. And about 15 yards, maybe 20 tops, I don't see it right now, but there's a deer bed over there where the deer have been laying under this tree. And these blackbirds are cutting up like crazy. They're going to be knocking a bunch of these acorns out. And maybe when this settles down, these deer come in here and munch out on them. There's a soybean field right out to the south of me, and or really southwest. I crossed that soybean field this morning. I jumped one doe out. That's all I've seen so far this morning. I've been trying to sneak in here. These blackbirds just kind of concealed my entry a little bit, but they're going to get noisy. And who knows, maybe when it settles down, these deer get up and come over here because they know these blackbirds have knocked a bunch of acorns out. That's the game plan. Wind's in my favor, kind of high on the knob. Sun's going to pull my hair back away from the tree when it starts to rise. Should be a good setup. That's a big old tree right there. A lot of acorns falling off of it. A lot of caps on the ground. We'll see. It's about 9 o'clock right now. I got a deer blowing probably 100 yards from me. I don't know what it's blowing at. Could be blowing at me. My scent is actually blowing that way. I blew back at it 2 or 3 times. It settled down, kind of ran around. Maybe it'll circle, come over to these acorns. That sounded like a deer just trotting over there. I need to get quiet and hunt. Bye. Well, I'm down out of the tree stand now. Morning hunt's pretty much been a bust. Michael Minton was doing a little bit of morning scouting and got a little too close to and didn't realize it. And I'm pretty sure that's what the doe was blowing at earlier. So he and I are going to do a little bit of scouting. As we've walked along, we've already spotted a couple of deer on the ground just walking and doing our little scout plan. So time to do a little more scouting and get serious with it. Okay, I got the one on film. She's just milling around. They don't even know we're here. Or if they do, they don't care. What do you think about that?
That's all right. If there was only a big boy bedded beside him.
There's a rub right there. It's hard to zoom in on this thing. Can't find it in the viewfinder. There's a rub right there, like a pencil-sized tree, but it's snapped off on top. This rub line here is leading to the corner where that giant rub line is. This tree here is another pencil-sized tree that snapped off. This tree here snapped off. That tree there up high is snapped off. That's chest high snapped off. So, and there's a lot of other little bitty saplings rubbed in here. I got a pond right here behind me. And the deer are actually skirting the edge of this pond. So I'm going to follow this transition right here because it's open woods back over there. And then on this side, it gets thick. This is a thick area, about 100-yard strip. I don't know why it's here, but it's thick. And then it opens up again on the other side. So we're going to walk in this all the way back to the soybean fields to see if I can't figure out what these deer are doing. That's a really old rub right there. You can see it's head high to me, nearly. On my afternoon hunt, I decided to go down close to the river bottom where some soybean fields butted up against a riverbank, set up in a corner and just observe, do an observation sit for an afternoon hunt. Perhaps try to figure out where these bucks are entering these fields, and if they are in fact entering the fields before dark. No sooner did I get in the field, these does are already in the field. I'm climbing the tree trying to be really quiet as I'm going up. I'm only 10 foot off the ground. I look around, in the middle of this field cutting across is a giant buck heading my way, straight to me. I'm freaking out. My bow's laying on the ground, the camera's laying on the ground. There's this buck coming across this field straight to me. I'm trying to rush and get my bow up in the air. I took my eyes off this buck just for a second, and he disappeared. I turned back around. I'm like, where did he go? This is a giant field. He can't just disappear into thin air. And it's kind of got me puzzled. I'm thinking, did he lay down right in the middle of the field to get my binos? I start looking out through there. I don't see any antlers sticking up. The soybeans are not that high. They're dry. They're brown. They're noisy as they can possibly be. You can't walk in this thing without creating a ton of noise. So I don't know what happened. Later on, I talked to Buddy Brisnine, who owns a farm, and he told me there's a big ditch out there in the middle of that field. And actually, you can see it on satellite imaging if you look close enough. Apparently, this buck got down in that ditch, and I think he bedded down. I don't believe that he escaped out of that field. I think he just bedded down in the middle of that field, perhaps wanting to monitor the does and whatever coming out into the field, same way I am. While all that's going on, these does finally end up down on my end of the field where I'm set up. They're within bow range, but there's no way I'm going to shoot at this doe with a buck that size out in the middle of that field, hopefully bedded down. When she gets on my end of the field, I don't know what she's sniffing on the ground, but something gets her real nervous and she starts smelling. I did not walk out into that field, didn't even get close. The wind is hitting me dead in the face. Wind's perfect for where I'm sitting, so I don't think she's smelling me at all, but she is dead on the trail of something. Could have been a coyote or just about anything walked through there. I don't know, but she eventually gets nervous and blows out of there and takes her other two fawns with her. Now, I don't really know what this is going to do to the bigger buck that I think is still bedded in the field out there, whether it's going to make him nervous enough just to hold tight till darkness, or perhaps maybe he'll get up and investigate and see what's going on. My emotions are kind of going back and forth right now. Later on, some more deer come out the other end of the field, and I had I'd seen a little buck earlier and tried to get him on film. I don't know if I double tapped the record button or what really happened, but I only got a glimpse of him on film. And then there's a pretty nice buck that's going to come out into the field and work a scrape. And I actually didn't see the buck there for a while. I kind of heard some noise that looked that way, and I said, well, he's working a scrape. That's the buck that I just barely got a glimpse of. I must have double tapped the record button. And this is the one that was working the scrape, and he's kind of walking off, checking the limbs on another scrape before he goes back into the woods. Now that one I would shoot. That's probably a 130 class buck, I'm guessing. There's bigger bucks in this area, but for me, that's a big enough buck to make me happy. I don't get to see bucks like that in Alabama very often, and I'm on day 2 in Kentucky, and I see a nice one. Into a good hunt.